Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you are listening to this video. It is time for Moments from the Cave Walker. I want to talk today about walking in, whether it is walking into a patient's room in a hospital or walking into a friend's home who is suffering or going through a difficult time. What is meeting someone in a restaurant who just needs someone to talk to because life has hit them quite hard? So, walking in is the initial phase. And I want to read from this book, and hopefully, you will glean something that will help you to create a new paradigm, a new way of operating when it comes to visiting or meeting with those who are suffering. Not necessarily suffering from an illness, but suffering from something psychologically, mentally, socially, even spiritually, going through a problem and they just need somebody to talk to, somebody to listen to what they have to say. Allow me to read this and then I would like to kind of talk about it with you. Crossing the threshold into a patient's room is not the first step in chaplaincy. Allow me to add here, this is not just going to see a patient. This is going to see anyone who are in need of someone to stop by for a little while and come into their cave. It's not the first step. Picking up the phone, calling that person is not the first step. Ringing their doorbell and walking across the threshold is not the first step. And even for pastors and layperson who visit with people, it's not the first step when you get into your car and drive in that direction. Unless intentionally you have done the reflection that's needed, you will miss a lot in reference to what is needed. You have to reflect on your own journey first. Reflect on what is going on with you first. Because one of the words in my field is countertransference. It is allowing your own emotions from your own past or your own stuff, as we might call it, get in the way of you talking to someone else. Let me give you a for instance. Say you had a bad marriage and things did not work out. So now you're going to visit someone who is struggling in their marriage, and they say something that is similar to what you faced in your own marriage. And if you're not careful, you'll begin to join in on the chorus of their statement without realizing it's emotions, your own emotions that are coming up now, and not the emotions of the person you're talking to. So we have to make sure that we are in touch with who am I? What's my emotional vortex? Things that have affected me in my life. Have I dealt with those things? Because you don't want to wreck someone else's story with the pain of your own story. So first you have to be in touch with your own story. You have to know who you are and where your pain lies. True preparation goes beyond, if you're in the hospital, it goes beyond trying to read a chart or a census. And if you're going to visit with a friend, it goes beyond just listening to what they said over the phone, come see me because I need to talk. It's beyond that. It involves reading yourself first. Don't jump into the car and go and to speak with someone about their troubles unless you have really thought about where you are in that moment. so that you do not derail the conversation with your own stuff. We're human. We are human. And sometimes we have some unfinished stuff in our own lives that we have not dealt with, and we're trying to help somebody else. The other day, I'm in the process, rather, of writing a new book, and hopefully it will be published within the next 2 weeks. I reached a saturation point because I could not get it to upload in the template the way it needs to be uploaded. And I had to go into a meeting to sit on a certification review. So when I came in, I said plainly, I'm just not in a good place right now. And the first colleague said to me, I know what you mean, Dr. H. I've been going through some stuff too. He started telling me his story. He took no time to listen to mine. So we have to be careful about not allowing our own story to derail the person's story whom we are talking with or talking to. So true preparation involves reading yourself. It is through knowing yourself that you avoid interjecting your story into the encounter. Your story becomes the well from which you draw the waters of insight and possibly moments of needed refreshment. In other words, when you have kind of reconciled your own story within yourself, you can draw from that, and your empathic attunement will increase. Your agency for being there will increase simply because you took the time to know yourself. Maintaining a non anxious presence is essential when crossing the threshold into a patient, a client, a parishioner, a friend's space. The first step in any encounter begins with self preparation, ensuring that we are grounded and fully present. There are two main perspectives on how chaplains or ministers or laypersons or a friend should approach these sacred, and they really are sacred, interactions. One approach rather emphasizes reading the patient's chart beforehand, gathering all the details that you need to know from the chart. Or if it's a friend you're visiting and you're going to see, going back over all the emails they have sent, reviewing all the conversations in your head, what they have said about this particular problem. That's one approach. And Anton Borzin, as we have talked about several times, who is the pioneer of clinical pastoral education, he says it's important to know, or to listen to rather, the words of the living human document. Everyone is a document. We all are a document because there are stories in our lives. Excuse me, I'm hitting the paper over here. There are stories that have made us to be who we are. Stories from our childhood, stories from our years of being a toddler, a teenager, or an adult. Those stories are composite of who we are today. This method can serve as a useful tool to initiate conversation, providing social context and a platform for a more meaningful dialogue. However, while this approach often offers certain advantages, it is not the one I personally advocate. The second approach aligns more deeply with the way I engage the living human document, a practice central to the cave walker model. The individual lying in the bed or sitting in a chair is not just a patient or a friend or a parishioner. They carry a rich complex story, one that existed long before the illness, one that existed long before the present problem they're dealing with now came about. They are more than a diagnosis or a chart entry or an email you received. They have a lived life, or they have lived a life filled with relationships, some broken, some whole. They have experienced love, loss, fear, hope, and the countless emotions that swirl around their current condition. Their illness, their current problem, has likely stirred new questions or even revealed long sought answers, creating a shifting landscape of meaning in their life. Let me stop there and we'll read more the next time. So it's important that we prepare ourselves first by reflecting on our own stuff so that it does not get in the way of the story I'm going to hear. And then we don't allow the emails that we have received or the chart that we have read, we don't allow it to get in the way of what the living human document is getting ready to say to us. Because guess what? It may not be on the chart. It may not be in the email. Something just may have transpired that very day that has shaken them to the core. And they need you to come into their cave and listen to their story. Have a good morning, or good afternoon, or a good night.